Good evening. My name is Alicia Molt, and I work for Congressman Mark Pocan. I'm originally from Worcester, Massachusetts, and went to Holy Cross, so I hope there's a, oh good, I was hoping there was a good Holy Cross group out here. I've worked on Capitol Hill for about 5 years, and I'm very excited to share with you some of the lessons I've learned so I can help you guys be as effective advocates for the issues you're here to talk about today. While working on Capitol Hill, I've had the chance to work for Congresswoman Gwen Moore, so if there's anyone here from Milwaukee, you've got a strong ally there, good. And Congressman Jim McGovern, who is perhaps one of the strongest allies for the issues you guys care about. I would also like to share, at Holy Cross, I had the chance to do trips to El Salvador and Kenya, and during those experiences, that really allowed me to find my vocation and my ability to connect the 2 feet of service in terms of direct advocacy and finding my way to sort of help things along through the legislative process. So again, I just really want to emphasize how important it is that you guys are here today and here this week to advocate for these issues. Your voices absolutely matter. I have to tell you, we hear, so as a legislative assistant, I take meetings all the time from all different interest groups, advocacy groups, from all ends of the spectrum on all different issues. There are not enough people coming to talk to us about the issues I know we all care so deeply about. So that's why I'm so glad that this room is packed with people who are here to represent those issues and make sure that Congress knows that folks like yourself are watching and that these issues will be ones you consider when coming to vote. I want to start by telling you that there are 3 things that you want to accomplish in order to have a successful meeting on the Hill tomorrow. The first is identifying yourself as a larger constituency. So what does that mean? It means making sure that when you start in the meeting saying, you know, my name is Alicia Molt and I am a part of Holy Cross's Student Programs for Urban Development, a group of 600 leaders on campus who advocate for social justice issues, and we care about the issues that we're supposed to talk about today. So that's the first one. So that's the translation there is, I care about this issue, and there's a whole lot of other people who really care about this issue too. The second thing, telling the member of Congress and their staff why you care. So, for example, I began to care about these issues as a part of my volunteering with this particular vulnerable population, or, you know, I learned about this issue in a class, making sure that that person gets the connection for why this is important to you. The last and most important, but you'd be surprised how often this gets forgotten, is making the ask. So whatever your ask is, so if it's a foreign policy ask, you know, whether that's please sign on to this letter, co-sponsor this bill, talk to another colleague in Congress, whatever it is, just making sure you really hammer that point home. So those are the 3 things that if you accomplish those 3 things, you will have a successful meeting. But let's kind of go in depth a little bit more as to how you can even really drive home those points even further. So I'm sure that you'll be prepared here today further on this, but before the meeting, you want to kind of plan out who's going to say what. So maybe there's, you know, 3 or 4 of you. Maybe one person is telling a story about how they came to care about this. Maybe somebody else is explaining the importance of the ask, and maybe another person is adding supportive comments or something like that. So just kind of assigning roles before you go into the meeting. You want to do your homework a little bit on the member with whom you're speaking. So is this someone maybe your group, your high school group or your college group has met with before? Where do they usually stand on these issues? If there's someone who you know has supported these issues commonly in the past, you definitely want to thank them for the support of these issues. I think it's also really important as you're going into these meetings to make sure you're not nervous. Do not be nervous. As a legislative assistant, I meet with folks all day, and we are meeting with people on a whole range of issues on many, many different topics. Chances are you might even know more about this specific issue than some of the folks with whom you're meeting. So do not feel nervous. Don't ever feel like you can't take up the time or anything like that. This is your time. They're your member of Congress, and they're there to listen to you. So that brings me to my next point. You might be meeting with a member of Congress or a member of the legislative staff. Either one, I think most of the points for the meeting still remain the same. If you're meeting with a legislative assistant, know that we are the ones that really are the next voice to the congressman. So your voice will definitely be heard, and we definitely pass those comments along to the congressman. So if you're not meeting with the congressman or congresswoman directly, that's not a problem. Know that it will definitely be heard. Staff are most interested in hearing from constituents. So again, when I mentioned before, identifying yourself as a part of a larger constituency, power in numbers, right? So all these people care about this issue, and we really want you to know that we're going to be voting on these issues. These are things that are important to us. So we really want to hear from the constituents. And maybe that's even saying, if you go to Holy Cross and you say, my parents also live in, Northbridge or something like that, wherever else you're from, and mentioning that too in the meeting. We were talking before too about researching the members ahead of time. So let's say you're meeting with somebody who's really supportive on these issues. One of the best advocacy meetings which I witnessed was in Congressman McGovern's office, and it was a group that was asking him to support some causes he was already very much supportive of. And a great question they asked was, how can we further support your work? And I thought that Congressman McGovern's answer was really great in that he said, I would love for you guys also to kind of like turn it into something you can work on together and continue spreading the word about this, right? So as a member of Congress, you come out there and you really advocate for these issues. You want other people to know about it. So go ahead and hit the social media and make sure everybody knows you met with the congressman and you had a great meeting and it was very helpful, or that they were able to sign on to your bill in the future, or write that letter to a local newspaper in your school or campus newspaper, identifying that you brought a group of people to Washington with you, and that this particular congressional office was able to be very helpful to your interests and things like that. So kind of creating the foundations of a reciprocal relationship in the future, one that really allows you guys to work and continue, because, as we all know, the issues we care about are ongoing. There's always going to be more things that we want to advocate for, more people that we want to advocate for, and you need to think of yourselves as sort of setting that foundation for a lasting relationship with the member to continue the advocacy. Other than that, I would suggest making sure that you really identify that ask. So like I said, I can't tell you how many times I have folks come in and say their ask gets sort of muddled in. So you really want to identify that, and then perhaps even more importantly, afterwards kind of following up on those asks. So you'll probably get a card from the legislative aide that handles the issue tomorrow, and you should feel free to email them afterwards and say, hey, about that bill we talked about, or the letter, or whatever else. Make sure they follow up, because again, I can tell you, having met with people from all different interest groups and things like that, the paid lobbyists, they're following up. I want all of you to follow up too and make sure that the issues you're talking about are being held in high regard by these offices. Make sure that they are held accountable, and you guys have the power to do that. And sometimes it's not that people are opposed to signing on to something or furthering that. It's just that with so many issues going on before Congress, you guys are the lobbyists for these issues. You guys are the ones that are really putting them forward. So it's up to you to continue to push that and make sure that people know these issues matter. So I would like to close with just, again, thanking you so much for being here in DC. It matters so much to me as someone who shares many of the issues which all of you are passionate about, that these issues get represented. And again, I know my experience at Holy Cross really allowed me to sink into these issues. It's the reason why I do what I do. So I hope that you're able to find a positive experience here in DC tomorrow up on the Hill and everything else. And I'm in Canon 313, so feel free to come say hi tomorrow, or if you have any last-minute questions, you can feel free to ask. Again, don't be nervous. These meetings will go very well. Just speak to the heart. Thank you.